I closed my eyes and tilted my head back so the sun could hit my face. I took a deep breath and let the fact that I was finally a free man sink into my bones. When I had been a dumb kid, spending 5 years behind bars as punishment for my wayward actions hadn't seemed like much of a big deal. I knew I deserved to pay some kind of penance, and some would say 5 years wasn't even close to being long enough. Now that I'd done the time and spent the first half of my 20s locked up, I knew with every fiber of my being that I'd underestimated how hard serving a 5-year prison sentence would be. I wasn't the same Zowen Archer as I had been back then, and it had nothing to do with me hovering closer to 30 than 20. I felt like being locked up for any significant amount of time altered a person down to their very base level. My perception of the world was different from the one I'd had when I went in, as was my perception of myself and the kind of man I ended up being. Time hadn't stood still for the 5 years I was stashed away. I felt like a visitor in a new land, trying to learn new customs and familiarize myself with the people and their traditions. "Are you ready to go?" A soft voice shook me from my introspection. I lowered my head and met Dare's bright green eyes. Even from the distance separating us, I could see she was holding back tears, and her hands were tightly clenched together to keep them from shaking. "You can't possibly be reluctant to leave this place behind." I let out a low chuckle and opened my arms. The next second, my cousin was wrapped in a hug that was tight enough to crack ribs. I felt my eyes tear up as well. It had been way too long since I'd been able to hold a family member this close. "Thanks for coming to get me, Dare." Originally, my parents were going to make the trip to the outskirts of LA for my release day. However, my dad had been caught off guard by a sudden cardiac event the weekend before, and was still recovering in the hospital. He was going through a multitude of testing, and my mom was too worried to leave his side. My sister also couldn't make the trip because she was heavily pregnant. She was already a mom to an adorable little 6-year-old who had come as a package deal with Remy's long-term boyfriend. I didn't think anyone was as shocked as she was when she decided she was ready to add to her family. She'd proven to be a fantastic mother over the years. At least, that was the report I'd gotten whenever she managed to visit me.